Hello everyone, this is your Weather Dude, and in today's video we're going to be talking about our tropics, severe weather, and the extreme heat out in the United States of America. But at first, we're going to be talking about our tropics today. As you can see right here, we have a 40% chance on our second system hanging out right out here off the coast of Africa and pretty much just floating out in the middle of the Atlantic. So things are looking pretty interesting as well as another possible chance of a system forming, but it's not looking great at all. So, and I don't see it forming like within the next 7 days because it says it's a 30% hit something, but I don't see it forming. And the next 48 hours is like 10%. While this one, on the other hand, it has a formation chance of 40% chance in the next 20 or no, the next 48 hours, and it has a 70% in the next 7 days. So, yeah, as in the next 7 days, um, tropics are looking pretty interesting. As we have this little system going on over here, I don't see it going anywhere. I think it's just gonna dissipate and become like a miniature rainstorm, but that's probably about it. But this one, on the other hand, you have big concerns, especially with a big fat hurricane possibly heading to the Lesser Antilles. So things are looking pretty interesting right there. So anyways, let's go check our model runs. The GFS model. Here we go. Here's our little rainstorm right here. He said, I don't see it forming. Because if you see, watch, here's like, I mean, it may be something near like the Yucatan of Mexico, near that area. But I don't see it forming at all. Like you can see it's out in the Caribbean, but then it runs into the Yucatan of Mexico, and it weakens. So I don't see it going anywhere. But we have a something concerning right here. There's a little guy right here in the middle of nowhere in the Atlantic. It's looking concerning because if we put it out into motion, you see, at first it's like a nice little storm trying to get its act together, trying to become a possible tropical system, and then all of a sudden it forms. Okay, it's at 1,002 millibars, and it's close to like a tropical depression, tropical storm status, close to tropical storm status. So it's definitely something. But guess what? It gets even bigger. Once it reaches below 1,000 millibars, it becomes a tropical storm, high end maybe, as well as maybe a hurricane. So something could be concerning right there. But if you see it even further, look at it now. It's 990 millibars. It is becoming a pretty possibly dangerous hurricane with a Cat 1 or a Cat 2, depending on the pressure size. So things are looking pretty not so good. Not so good at all. But guess what? It keeps on going. And there's another system trying to form right towards the east of it. Yeah. So, so I mean, it's going to be pretty concerning with these two. But the one that I'm mainly focusing on is this one right here. This one it's gonna become something big. I just see it. I foresee it in the near future. Because if we put it on motion more, like it keeps on getting larger. And it's down to 980 now. This could be like a category 2 or 3, depending on the status of this thing. It very well could be. So that's why we really gotta watch this system right here as it gets closer to the gates of the Caribbean. So it's definitely becoming something, and now it's at 997. Or no, it's at 977. This could be a possible Category 3 or maybe a Cat 4. And this is heading towards the Lesser Antilles. It could be possible. It very well could be. Or it could be a 2 or a 3. It looks like that very well could be a 3, at least. And then with this other tropical system hanging out over here, with problems with this one as well. This one may be like a tropical depression, maybe just becoming a tropical storm. I would say this is right around July 1st as it gets closer, and it just goes even further down, 974. It is a very strong storm, and then boom, it landfalls right at the Lesser Antilles at a 969 millibar storm. And that could be a Cat 3 or Cat 4. So, things aren't looking good. They are not looking good. And if you live in the Lesser Antilles, I'd mainly be very cautious of this storm because as models go into, it's becoming more consistent as it heads towards the Caribbean, the gates of the Caribbean, and it looks like it could explode once it hits the Lesser Antilles. After that, I don't know what's going to happen, so that's why we're going to keep on going. But not to mention, you also have this other system. I would say it's like a 1007 millibar storm, so I don't see it becoming anything big, like a miniature tropical storm. Like, I don't see it really going anywhere. But this storm right here is at 965 now. That's not good at all. But then don't worry, because as time continues, it starts weakening. As well as this one. This one's like a tropical, like a low-end tropical storm, high-end tropical depression. I don't see this one becoming anything huge. But this one, it will be something big, but then it's gonna start decreasing, which is a good thing as it goes through the Caribbean. It also hits right around the Caribbean islands to the northern side as well, towards like Dominican Republic and Haiti. And as it approaches Jamaica, it's right around 1,000. So this is like I would say right about I would say once it makes it there, it's probably like a high-end tropical storm, most likely. But then as it goes out and it approaches Cuba and the Yucatan, it pretty much just weakens as like a low-end tropical storm, so that's a good thing. And then, ooh, not to mention, we also have the other storm behind it right here. I want to say it would probably just bring rainfall to these two islands towards, or not the two islands, but like the one main island hitting Dominican Republic and Haiti. And as it progresses, I'm going to say it's going to fall apart, and then it's going to form with these little thunderstorms, and then it's going to form right back up as it gets closer to the Carolinas. It very well could be, but it could be like only like a tropical depression, miniature rainstorm. I don't see anything being big out of that. But now we gotta go back and see what this other storm's also gonna do. So like I said, it's right around the gates of the Caribbean. No, the gates of the Gulf of Mexico. So as it approaches the Gulf of Mexico, what's it gonna do next? That's why we gotta put it out in motion. And as you can see, once it hits Yucatan, it could be like a probably medium-sized tropical storm, maybe a lower-end tropical storm. But then once it hits the Gulf, it pretty much weakens, but then it also strengthens a little bit. So it could be still at that tropical storm status, right around Texas, like Mexico and Texas. So something's definitely not looking good. And especially with models going into the Gulf of Mexico now, with the heat in that Gulf right now, it's just relentless. And it's just boiling. It's waiting for storms to come and appear. Oh, don't worry, because we also have another storm hanging out over here towards the Atlantic. Actually, I meant to worry. My bad. Yeah, whoops. Anyways, yeah, so it looks like this hurricane season's gonna be crazy. And then after that, like I said, we had that little tropical system, but actually, thankfully, I don't think we would actually have to worry as of now, as something be coming behind that. But by the way, this is like July 10th, so yeah, it's nothing gonna be, and that's way too far out. So we don't know what's gonna happen that far out. So I mean, you just don't. And after that, that's pretty much it. So you just have to watch that storm over towards the Lesser Antilles, or heading towards that area, or right around the Caribbean as well. So definitely have to keep our eyes on that. But that's pretty much it for what I got for the tropics. Now we're going to be going into the severe weather component. Yes. As you can see, this is today's severe weather across the United States of America. As you can see, it's across eastern. The enhanced threat is across western Nebraska, western South Dakota, western North Dakota, and eastern Montana, as well as small portions of northeast Colorado. We also have a small slight risk in majority parts of Utah and western Colorado. So definitely something to keep an eye on with this severe weather. And then small marginal threat hanging out over here towards Georgia and the Carolinas. So things aren't looking too bad over there, but over here, definitely gotta watch what's gonna be happening. So now we're gonna be looking at our tornado threat. As you can see, 5% is pretty much for the same areas that I just talked about. Actually northeastern Montana, western North and South Dakotas, and small portions of Nebraska. And the 2% is extending from western Kansas and eastern Colorado all the way up to the Canadian border. So pretty much right around the 5% as well. And then if we go on to our wind threat, it is a huge, 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 huge 30% with it being in eastern Montana, western North Dakota, South Dakota, and also northeastern Nebraska with the hatched risk. And with this hatched risk, this could be up to 75-mile-per-hour winds. So that is speedy. That is like a Category 1 hurricane winds. Like, that is crazy. So that's what we got watch for that today. As well as a little bit of hail as well with our 30%. Almost said 15. 30% right around Montana and North Dakota. But the hatched risk with the possibly 2-inch in diameter hail or more could be extending from Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, and northeastern parts of Wyoming. So definitely something to keep an eye on with that. And then the 15% extends from small portions of Texas all the way up to the Canadian border. And no hail threat for out in the Carolinas and Georgia, so I guess that's a good thing. Actually, that is a good thing. So that's pretty much what's happening right there. The next day, tomorrow, which is June 28th, we got more severe weather. We just cannot get a break with this, can we? We cannot. Because as you can see, if you look at our slight risk, it is a pretty decent sized slight risk. With the slight risk from southern parts of Minnesota all the way through majority of Illinois, actually no, Iowa, northwestern parts of Missouri, majority of Kansas, northeastern Colorado, and majority of Nebraska. So things are looking pretty interesting right there for that day, as well as a 5% right around the tri-state of Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri, and small portions of Iowa. And then 2% is pretty much across the same areas as the slight risk. The wind is a hatched threat, so this could be up to 75-mile-per-hour wind speeds with 15% across northeast Colorado, southern Nebraska, and majority of Kansas. And then the 15% pretty much right where the same slight risk was at. Hail threat, same areas, but the hatched threat is right around the tri-state of Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. So things are looking pretty interesting right there for today, or not today, tomorrow. This is for tomorrow. So just gotta keep an eye on what the weather is gonna do. Then Saturday, ooh, we got more severe weather on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. Here we go. There is Saturday. A slight risk throughout Ohio, majority of Ohio, northern West Virginia, and western Pennsylvania, or you pretty much call it the tri-state of Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And then the marginal threat is pretty much across as far west as southeastern Colorado and northeastern New Mexico, all the way to the Canadian border into the Great Lakes. So things are looking pretty interesting right there. Any severe, so this could be like hail, um, hail, wind, tornado threat. We really don't know yet, but as time goes on, we will know what the weather will be like for that day. And then for the more days, let me go back. So here we go. And then for Sunday, let me zoom in. For Sunday, we actually have a 15% threat. It's crazy. And this is pretty much across the same area as today. So this is pretty much eastern Montana and western North Dakota. And this is the 15% slight risk. So definitely have to watch something here with a day 4 slight risk. And when it's far out like this, we know something's going to happen. So, and then we also have more severe weather on July 1st. Yeah, July 1st. And this is across majority, or actually mainly just Nebraska and South Dakota, eastern parts of Nebraska and South Dakota. Um, thing is, with a day 5, and especially with this environment out here in the Dakotas and Nebraska, we could see some pretty big forming right out of this storm. So we definitely have to keep an eye on what is going to happen with this potential system. And then for Tuesday, there's just nothing, like nothing. Nothing for Wednesday and nothing for 4th of July. So I guess that's a good thing so far because the model runs aren't really accurate on that yet. So we just have to wait and see. Now we are going to be going on to the model runs for today's severe weather. So this is pretty much across Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, and parts of Nebraska and northeastern parts of Colorado. So let's put this out in motion. Actually, no. Actually, that's a lie. I think it's out in the Dakotas and Nebraska today. That's what I meant to say. But also, it is for small portions of Wyoming and parts of Colorado. So let's put this out in motion, and here we go. As you can see, here's our little severe weather starting to form right around Montana. This is right around, probably right around, I'd say, like, probably about now, I would say. But then as we put this out in motion, actually, that was right around 1 o'clock, but now this is probably gonna be like at night. So this is out in like the Dakotas, so this is like 10 p.m. And as you can see, we have straight line winds as well as a couple of supercells maybe popping up in South Dakota and North Dakota and even Nebraska. And then as the storms progress, it kind of just fizzle out once things start going. Like things will start going, I would say probably for about a few hours, and then they'll just weaken out. Because as you can see, the threat kind of just weakens out. But we also have the chance of severe weather across most of Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska tomorrow. So definitely have to watch something there. And then for our relentless heat, we gotta go check it out. And as you can see, there's a lot of heat right here. About 90 degrees up in the Dakotas and Montana. And that's what's going to cause this massive severe weather threat. And as the severe weather goes in, like I said, these storms are going to be firing up like crazy for a pretty decent amount of time. And then, as you can see, it's right around like the upper 60s, even maybe in the mid 60s. And that's what's going to pretty much cause the storms to just die out quickly. So they're pretty much just be dominant on the western sides of the Dakotas and Nebraska for today. And then that's pretty much it. But then for our heat, for our highs for today, as you can see, Texas is supposed to be right around the 100s today. The southeast are going to be right around the 90s, with South Carolina right around 100 degrees again. But that's pretty much like the only really state that would probably reach that degree. And then out here towards the west, oh my gosh, it's so hot. As you can see, it says 112. And Death Valley, ooh, 115 out in Death Valley today. And then over here, like I said, it's pretty much like in the 80s and 90s for the southeast. But then up here in the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, it stays pretty decently warm with the mid 80s. But once you reach the Great Lakes, it's supposed to be right around the low 70s. So it's definitely can be a pretty diverse area throughout the Ohio River Valley and the Great Lakes. Because some parts are going to be up pretty high today, like up to like the mid 80s up to the low 90s. But then the Great Lakes, once you get close to them, it's right around the 70s, right around the low 70s, low to mid 70s, I should say. And then Northeast, it's pretty much the same story. And that is pretty much all I got for today. Heat is still pretty going on like crazy, but I think this is probably just typical summertime heat. So but yeah, and then we also have to watch the tropics, and the severe weather is can possibly get dangerous as time goes on, as more model guidance goes out into it. But anyways, that is pretty much what I got for today. Anyways, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and that is pretty much all I got for today. So, yep. Anyways, I will see y'all later. See ya. Bye.